This car is too small to wear this hat. All right, good morning, everybody. I wanted to talk a little bit about a lot of the discussion that's going on right now in the Jewish world, in the general world, about Kanye West, about Kylie, I don't remember his name, the basketball player, and now Dave Chappelle. And I'm sorry if I don't remember his name. I'm sure he doesn't know, who's Rosh Shiva in Panovich. So, anyway, and there was something very telling when Choshev in German, Talmud Chochem, Mari Studemeyer, soll gesund sein, he explained that he cannot have a taina, he cannot have a complaint against any of these men for what they've said. I think specifically he's talking about this Kylie, again, Nochamalach Gedenknish. Anyway, the point that I'm making here is as follows. Because this fellow Kylie, people are upset that he tweeted a video, a link to a video on Amazon about the Hebrew Israelite cult. And I think, again, a lot of folks are upset at Candace Owens, for what she said about it, and she made actually a very good point. You know, the more that you try to silence something, the more people are interested in it. You know, I remember when I was a kid, my mother was always upset. You know, I went to public school until 10th grade. And the public schools, there's always, the big say no to drugs campaigns. And my mother always said, how do kids know what drugs are unless you tell them to say no? Meaning, when you start telling them to say no, now Baruch Hashem, I never did drugs. I have no interest in that. I do think maybe more things should be legal, just because people shouldn't be going to jail for things that are not hurting other people. And if they wind up hurting people, that's when they should go to jail. If they do something bad under this influence, that's a different story. But just the substance itself, depends what it is. If it's very, very dangerous, I don't know, it depends. I think it's more about the people selling and the people using should be the ones who are in trouble, Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, when you talk about something, people get interested in it. People get curious. And when you say you cannot talk about something, people get even more interested. And so I think Candace Owens has a very strong point. When you start saying you're not allowed to talk about this, that makes more problems than to just ignore something. And she used the term historic textbook. I don't know if that was the best choice of words, but it was really nothing wrong. I'm talking about Mein Kampf, the same thing about all of these other, pieces of text that are in books that had historical impact, negative historical impact, whether it's Mein Kampf, and of course to read it in context, not to read it as, this is something inspiring, but rather to read it, where did this twisted thought come in? Where did, how did we come to this idea? What this impact that was on the world, where did this come from? This horrific, evil impact. So these are things to have in mind and to be aware of But when you start to say, you're never allowed to even look at this, so people are going to find it. They're going to find it somewhere else. Better to just ignore certain things. And that was the point of Dave Chappelle's speech. Where he's saying, you're not allowed to talk about certain things. Well, why not? And he says, making his job very hard. Because he's an equal opportunity offender. All his life he was. And he's making points. You might disagree with it, but that's the point. And if you don't like it, you don't listen to it. But to try to ban somebody, to try to make it that, this person has to be canceled, in general, not only about the Jewish community, but in general. And the truth is, there are a lot of issues with a lot of these secular organizations or quasi-religious organizations like the ADL. And like recently there was a story in Chicago, Simon Wiesenthal Center said, there was a anti-Semite came on the bus and started making Nazi salutes and threatening kids on an Orthodox Jewish yeshiva bus in Chicago. And there was Shiva there, the principal of the school, the dean of the school, said, there was no such thing. So and I think we in our community understand a lot better. There's an idea of keeping a low profile, but the problem is the left-wing organizations, the ADL, and this Wiesenthal and whatever else, they stir up the pot and make problems for us. We just want to be left alone. We're not the ones in Hollywood. We're not the ones in in any of these places. There are a few Orthodox Jews in Hollywood, but those are the good people trying to clean up Hollywood. But for the most part, in the media, there are very few Orthodox Jews. And most of those, they left the Hollywood area. They moved to Tennessee, to Florida, wherever else, because there's a lot more opportunities in other places now. But there's a stronger point that I have to bring in, much more important than all of this. And I probably should have began with this. Judaism is a religion, not a race. And I believe in the Shemayim, meaning in a metaphysical sense. The reason why we're having these things in our face is to teach us that lesson. Because the black Hebrew Israelites, of course, there's a lot of diversity in that community. And it's very hard to study because they're not unified and not organized. But it runs the gamut of very racist black separatist groups that have very strange views that are based in Christianity, but not authentically Christian, of course. And then you have groups that are bordering, or actually are, to a certain extent, Orthodox. And everything in between. So you have someone like Mrs. Obama's cousin, Caper Funay, Rabbi Caper Funay. He had a conservative geirus, and which most likely is halachic. His shul has separate seating, doesn't have mechitza, but has separate seating. And he's, what I would call like conservadox, But they also call him Israelite. But he underwent a geirus and he understood that. And I think that's really what we have to really look at more, is to encourage people to convert. If you're really interested in Judaism, we should have an open door. Not wide open, meaning obviously if there are people who still believe in some kind of Christian ideology, we can't welcome them in our communities as being part of our communities. We could be friends with them. We can fellowship with them to a certain extent, but they're not our community. But if we present Torah to people and not be gatekeepers, but even if we are gatekeepers, we open that gate a little bit easier. We give at least people opportunity to learn, well, what do we really believe? What is our real faith? And if you want to join, this is what you have to do. And not to make it too hard, just to follow the halacha. Because when you see in the poskim, in the Shas and poskim, Geirus is a very simple thing. Conversion is a very simple thing. It stopped being a simple thing because the Christians and the Muslims banned it, right? Obviously, when you had these powerful communities that, we were a minority, and we're still a minority, but I'm saying we were persecuted minority in the past. So it was a tremendously brave thing for anyone to convert to Judaism to the point of martyrdom. And there were, when people did convert, they often were faced with martyrdom because of their conversion. Now that we have freedom of religion and it's easier to convert, yet we're stuck with that baggage that we're not letting people convert. And then the Zionists went and made a country that's artificially majority Jewish, and you would think, so there should be open doors. And there the people are saying, not only are we making it hard to convert there in the Holy Land, but all over the world they pressure everyone else. If someone doesn't, or not on our list, don't accept their conversion. There's no such thing. Any 3 Shomer Shabbos men could make a bezdin, just like you can make a bezdin, just like you can make a court for a Taras Nadarim, you could make a court for Geirus. As long as they're kosher la'edus, as long as they're kosher ladun, you could make a bezdin, you could convert. It should be very easy to convert. You need the mikveh, you need the bris milah or tavastam for a man, you need the bezdin. And the person has to understand what they're doing, be makabel mitzvahs, but then that's it. It's not a difficult thing. It's not a crazy difficult thing. It's a very easy thing. It's not like Gittin, where there's so much complication. It's a very simple thing. And the halacha is we're supposed to. It says in Shulchan Aruch. It says in Chazal, Rambam, Shulchan Aruch. We're not supposed to push away gerim too much. And we see there's a famous medrash about Timnah. It's related to coming parshas, especially Parshas Toldos, that there was a woman named Timnah. She went to Avram Avinu. She wanted to convert, and he pushed her away. Which I don't know how historical this is. This is a point to teach an archetypical story. And so she married Eliphaz. She married Esau's son. And she didn't even marry him. She was a concubine. And from there came Amalek, came the archetypical enemy. Why? Because we can't push away too much. When we push away people from converting, we create hatred of Jews. We're supposed to welcome converts. Now, it doesn't mean you can convert someone who doesn't believe in our faith. It doesn't mean you can convert someone who doesn't plan to keep anything. But if someone believes and they're going to try their best to keep, and maybe they'll fail, and maybe they'll get better, and back and forth. They're part of Klal Yisrael. They're certainly no different than someone who is quote unquote born Jewish, who doesn't believe in anything, doesn't keep anything. Such a person is not a Gentile, but they're not really part of the Klal Yisrael. Their wine is yayin nesech. They don't really count for a minyan unless they do tshuva. You assume someone walks into a shul, they do tshuva. But just like Stam, someone doesn't understand anything. Certainly an atheist, you can't count a man who's an atheist for a minyan. A man or a woman who's an atheist just because they happen to be born Jewish. If they pick up that open bottle of non-mevushal wine and pour it, that wine's not kosher. It's yayin nesach, or at least stam yayin. But there was a ma'isa by a Shinover Rav that he said that a certain Israeli wine, at the time I guess from Eretz Yisrael, wasn't Israeli yet, back in the 1870s, 1880s. And he said that the wine is yayin nesech. It's not just stam yayin. It's biblically prohibited, not just rabbinically prohibited. But this is what we have to do. We have to be more welcoming. And like people have pointed out, a lot of the people who converted, who are people of color, they started off with these Hebrew Israelite groups, and they realized, I want something more authentic. And when they finally make it, they wind up. But who? And the saddest thing is, who are the Orthodox Jews who are all over the world are the one group that don't accept converts. Now, it's one thing, all right, they themselves don't accept converts. They won't even accept other people's converts, which that makes no sense, because there was, by Lubavitcher Rebbe, he had an Indian that he himself and his community, they wouldn't do certain things, but they'd recognize what other Orthodox communities do and accept that. And in the last few years, they don't do that anymore. Meaning, I had a friend of mine, he married a woman from Colombia. She'd already passed away since then. And he was a Lubavitcher Chassid, and he became modern Orthodox. He's a Rebbe She'enikel. And Rabbi Avi Weiss, made the Geirus. And he's very liberal, obviously, we know, but his Geirus is Kahalacha. The Geirus Chal. And Lubavitcher Rebbe recognized that it was Chal. I'm sure Lubavitcher Rebbe knew who Rabbi Weiss is, right? And this friend of mine, he sent a letter to Lubavitcher Rebbe. He said it's a good shidduch, and Lubavitcher Rebbe said it's an Orthodox Geirus, it's good enough. But now I see in Oklahoma, I have friends of mine, they made the Geirus that is more strict than Rabbi Weiss. Because Rabbi Weiss holds that the Ger is Chal even if the person's not Shomer Shabbos. As long as they make their kitchen kosher, that's enough to show Kabbalas HaMitzvahs. And there's a Shita like that. And this other Bezdin is more strict. They require that you're Shomer Shabbos. Maybe they're lenient about what means Shmir Shabbos, what means kashrus, but you have to be Shomer Shabbos, Shomer kashrus. You have to keep Taras Mishpacha. You have to do the basics, right? And someone, he calls himself Lubavitcher Shliach in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He not only he won't let them daven, he won't count them for a minyan. All right, he won't let them count for a minyan, so let them daven there. He won't let them daven there, even he's not counting them for minyan. It's one thing I can understand. You say, we won't count you for minyan, we won't give you an aliyah, but you could daven here. Everyone's welcome here. That I understand. But to say you're not even welcome in this building, and then, even worse, he has a mikveh, and he says that their daughter-in-law, who was born Jewish, and she only made the Ger L'Chumrah, so that she cannot use the mikveh, and that her son, he called the like 5 states all around Oklahoma, don't make a bris milah. He called all the moilim. They finally found a moil in Texas who would do it. He called all the moilim, don't make a bris milah for this person, and that's not the way that, from what I know from Lubavitcher Rebbe. I mean, Lubavitcher Rebbe would have said, Lubavitcher Hasidim, Lubavitcher Besin should not make a gerus. Verstehe. But they whatever. I'm saying, and that this is these happen to be people, white people. Doesn't make a difference. And like I said, their daughter-in-law, the one who needs to go to mikveh, she was probably born Jewish, but she made a Ger L'Chumrah because we didn't really know, but she has more than ample evidence to say that she's probably born Jewish and was a Ger L'Chumrah. And it's gefährlich that, these are the people who are all over the country, all over the world, and they're not Mikabel Gerim, and they don't have a mitzvah. You have to miss a ger. I don't understand it. And this is why we have this issue. Meaning, if we were Mikabel Gerim like the halacha says, and people just don't know the halacha. People they heard some urban legend that you're supposed to push someone away 3 times. First of all, they push away a lot more than 3 times. And they don't understand it's a mitzvah to be Mikabel Gerim. There's say a bracha when you go to the mikveh, and if you haven't make a full bris milah, make a bracha al milas Gerim. It's not a small thing. So Eibishter helfen that we should be more welcoming and not put up so many barriers and follow the halacha in this matter. And that's why, and if we do this, we're going to have a much easier time with all these issues, because we will get rid of the problem, because we're going to welcome people who authentically believe in Torah into our community. That's what we have to do. And we might teach other people, and maybe they'll wind up believing what we believe also. And that's what we have to work on. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and we'll see you later.